Good morning. I'm Marlon Lavenhar.
And I'm Nicole Kirk, and on behalf of the entire ministry team at All Souls, welcome. This morning, our dear Reverend Randy Lewis is feeling a bit under the weather, so we're sending good thoughts for him to feel better, and he's probably online watching us right now.
That's right. And I want to welcome everyone who's online, all of our Everywhere members from all over the world and all over the country. Welcome to you. Please put your joys and concerns, prayer requests, thank you, into the chat so that we can include them when we light candles a little bit later in our service.
And if you are a first-time visitor or new to All Souls, we have a gift for you. As our ushers come down the aisle, if you raise up your hand and keep that hand up there, they will be able to see you, find you, and to share that gift with you. Hold that hand up until you receive your gift. Now, after our service, if you are new and visiting, we invite you to Sonen Library, just outside the sanctuary doors to the left. And there in the Sonen Library, you'll find light refreshments and a chance to meet our welcoming soul team. They can answer any questions you may have.
And now I'd like to ask you to help me to welcome our guest speaker this morning, the Reverend Dr. Molly Hausch Gordon, who is... She is no stranger to All Souls. She grew up in this congregation. She's an award-winning singer from our children and youth choir program. Yes, over the years. She came of age here in the pulpit in 9th grade. She spoke from our pulpit as a youth in Youth Sunday. She was married to her wonderful husband, who I know is here, James, right here on the chancel some years ago. She's back with her children, and one thing, she's now the minister of our Unitarian Universalist Church in Columbia, Missouri. After graduating from Harvard Divinity School, she has done so much in her ministry that we can all be proud of, knowing that she was raised here at All Souls. And one thing that really special to me, and I think to all of us now, she also co-wrote the Promises ritual that we have started to do each year in commemoration of the 1921 race massacre. So we give you such thanks, and it's so wonderful to welcome you back. And yes. So please rise as you are able, as Reverend Hausch Gordon leads us in our invocation and covenant.
Now, I will always hear these words in the voice of John Wolfe, but I'm going to do my best.
Okay.
This is indeed a day which God has made. Let us then rejoice in it and be glad, and let us count our many blessings. Let us be grateful for the capacity to see, feel, hear, and understand. Let us be grateful for the incredible gift of life. And let us be especially grateful for the ties of love which bind us together, giving dignity, meaning, worth, and joy to all our days. Will you please join me in our covenant, printed in your order of service? Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Welcome to All Souls, where we love beyond belief.
As our chalice lighters come forward, turn and reach your neighbor this morning.
All right. Wonderful, wonderful. It's so great. I could just feel all the love and spirit that Reverend Molly has brought into this congregation this morning. Keep that going after the service in our fellowship hall. Right now, I'd like to introduce our chalice lighters. The chalice is a symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith all over the world, and we light our chalice each Sunday morning. Today, our chalice is being lit by Molly's little brother. Not so little anymore. Yeah, we are so glad to welcome you, Robbie, and your wife, Hannah, to light our chalice. They were child care workers for us for many years down in below the ramp here, and it's just great to welcome you back to light our chalice this morning.
Together we kindle this chalice with open hearts. We recognize the miracle of life all around us. A child's laughter echoing across a room, the resilience of a flower blooming in the summer heat, the vast sky that covers us all, the digital connections bridging continents. Human courage, human compassion, we are one people lighting one flame. The light of universal love will shine through us and among us, now and always.
Today's story comes from the memoir of John Lewis, Walking with the Wind, adapted by Reverend Karen G. Johnston. This is a true story of a great leader in this nation who died in July of 2020. Many people were very sad to lose him and very thankful for all he has done to bring about justice in our nation. John Lewis had lived a long and full life, asking of himself and asking of all of us to show up for justice, to do what we can and just a little bit more, to make sure that there was more fairness in our country. See, John Lewis grew up in a large family, and he would spend time with his aunts or uncles or siblings and cousins. There were many children in the neighborhood, and they would all play together. Mr. Lewis tells about a time when he was playing outside at his Aunt Seneva's house with about 14 other children when a storm, a big storm, arrived, a kind of storm that made him very afraid. And I'm going to tell this from his perspective, so it's like he's talking. So when I say I really mean Mr. John Lewis. Aunt Seneva was the only adult around, and as the sky blackened and the wind grew stronger, she herded us all inside. Her house was not the biggest place around, and it seemed even smaller with so many children squeezed inside. Small and surprisingly quiet. All of the shouting and laughing that had been going on earlier outside had stopped. The wind was howling now, and the house started to shake. Even Aunt Seneva was scared. And then it got worse. Now the house was beginning to sway, and the wood plank flooring beneath us began to bend. And then a corner of the room started to lift. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. None of us could. The storm was actually pulling the house toward the sky with us inside it. That was when Aunt Seneva told us to clasp hands, line up and hold hands, she said, and we did as we were told. And then she had us walk as a group toward the corner of the room that was rising. From the kitchen to the front of the house, we walked, and the wind was screaming outside, and the sheets of rain were beating on the tin roof. And then we walked back in the other direction as the other end of the house began to lift. And so it went, back and forth. 15 children walking with the wind, holding that trembling house down with the weight of our small bodies. Can you imagine what it was like to be in that house? Afraid that it might fall apart from the destructive force of the wind and the rain from the whole storm. I'm so glad that John Lewis wasn't alone, that he was there with friends and family. I'm so glad that they figured out how to work together. When John Lewis was much older and was writing down the story of his whole astounding life, he wrote these words: "More than a half century has passed since that day, and it has struck me more than once over those years that our society is not unlike the children in that house. Rocked again and again by the winds of one storm or another, the walls around us seeming at times as if they might fly apart. It seemed that way in the 1960s. At the height of the civil rights movement, when America itself felt it might burst at the seams. So much tension, so many storms. But the people of conscience never left the house. They never ran away. They stayed. They came together. And they did the best they could, clasping hands and moving toward the corner of the house that was weakest. And then another corner would lift and we would go there. And eventually, inevitably, the storm would settle and the house would still stand. But we knew another storm would come and we would have to do it all over again. And we did. And we still do. All of us. You and I. Children holding hands. Walking with the wind. Thank you for listening, not to my story, but to Mr. John Lewis's story. I invite our children and youth to come to Sunday school where we can make sure everyone is treated fairly.
Our reading this morning is the poem The First Week by Laura Eberly. If we all agreed to, on Monday, we could plant a pollinator garden on every corner and turn over one parking spot per block to vegetables and fruit. But first, on Sunday, we should assemble all the healers, all the yogis, chiropractors, sangomas, and sage smudgers, and ask them to have coffee with the matriarchs and the refugees and the trans sex workers and the small-town queers and anybody who has yelled at a marble building through a bullhorn or raised a child in times of war. And by lunchtime, all of us would learn to locate, heal, and fortify our spines. That evening, the musicians would find our diaphragms and teach us new songs to sing while planting. On Tuesday, after the gardens, we would repair every roof, install rain barrels and solar panels, retrieve the lost balls and frisbees and kites, and remember that we are tiny beneath the sky. On Wednesday, we'd fix the heaters so the gas could never be cut off and install a tiny lead filter in each faucet. By Thursday, we would know each other's names and begin to tell our stories. Then the farmers and the roofers and the plumbers would be honored by the doctors and the lawyers who had spent their first week ever listening. Next, venerations and reparations from the bankers and professors, who will learn that education isn't learning and money isn't value and nothing is the feel of soil in your hands or throwing back your head to sing. We will ache for love and owning nothing, and for the first time that will make us unafraid. By Friday, we will be too busy healing, tending, and child-rearing for waging war. So the soldiers will have no orders. The police will have quiet radios and no calls, so we will tear apart the prisons and send the guards to rehab, where first graders and nursery workers will teach them slowly to trust humanity again, beginning with their own. We will use the bricks and the fences to build community centers with wide porches, where grannies can knit and keep watch instead. Saturday would be for rest, hammocks, creeks, and lemonade. We would listen to the earth and the spirits and our ancestors and our lovers and our beloveds and the bullfrogs and the songbirds and the tall grass and the redwoods and the oak trees, breathing. For one day every week, breathing. And by next Sunday, we would know who else we need.
In this moment, we open ourselves to the care and concern that we have for one another in this community. We are reminded that in times of difficulty, that there will always be a light. There will always be a light that will show us and remind us of the possibility of hope and the abundance of love. We recognize that none of us are alone. As we hold this sacred space together, we pause to acknowledge the joys and the sorrows that shape our journey. This morning, we lift up and light candles with heartfelt condolences for our youth coordinator, Corey Smith's wife, Missy, and the loss of their nephew, Andrew Rice, who died in an act of violence this week. And in a similar vein this morning, we light a candle for member Sharon Harris's family member, Jashari Jackson, who also died by an act of violence. She was 23 years old. We light a candle this morning for Floretta Reed and family on the loss of her beloved cousin, Dorothy Williams, who also passed away this last week. Many of us have been carrying in our hearts the news of former Governor George Nye and his passing this last weekend. And we light a candle for him and his family, those who knew and worked with him. This morning, we light a candle for Janie Livingston and her family, and for Sam Gulilata. Sam is the father of Anitra Lavenhar. Both Janie and Sam have entered hospice this week. We light a candle for those in our community recovering from illness, in hospitals, facing new or continued health challenges. Particularly this morning, we continue to carry in our hearts Heather Lawson and so many others. We light a candle this morning for Chris Blake's mom, Patty, who went into hospice this week. And now I invite you to name aloud someone you wish to include in this sacred moment. Lighting candles for these names that have been spoken and shared, and those that are left unspoken, but nevertheless remain in our hearts. If you are in the first year of the loss of a loved one, or if this Sunday is the closest to the anniversary of the death of someone you love, we invite you to stand now in memory and mourning until our spoken prayer begins.
You may be seated. Let us pray. Eternal Spirit, please hear in our hearts the gratitude and longing of which this prayer is but a small reflection. Like the reflection on the surface of a still body of water, let our lives shine with the radiance of the sky. Calm our spirits so that, like water, our very stillness is an embodiment of peace affecting all around us. We are thankful for the very breath of life. We are seeking essence, holding the essence, letting the essence carry us deeper. We are one with all of life, never separate, never alone. Here, together this day, this week, our week, the first week of the rest of our life, we are one. Together we pledge our hearts anew to what we know is true, that peace is inside of us, fueled by each breath, aware with every breath of the promise, the wondering, the witnessing, the longing. The pace of change, the loss of life to violence here and around the world leaves us breathless. So we pause. We breathe in. We breathe out. As we continue to breathe and lift our hearts together, we offer ourselves fully to life, all of it. Thankful for where we've been, expectant for where we are heading, offering ourselves to the world as we breathe our way into this moment. Amen.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. I hear you. When I breathe, when I breathe out, I breathe out. When I breathe in, when I breathe, oh, I breathe out, I breathe out. Take that in. When I breathe in, I breathe in. When I breathe, yes, let it envelop you. I breathe out. When I breathe in, when I breathe in, oh, I breathe in. When I breathe in, when I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
23 years ago, I stood in this pulpit and delivered my very first sermon. I was 17. The youth group had taken over the chancel, as they had each year before us and as they have each year in the decades since. We played Weezer a bit too loud on electric guitar, and we bared our hearts, and we shared our very unwavering opinions about the world, and we were celebrated and held in all our weird and wonderful teenage paradox, certain and doubtful, arrived and unformed. I loved it up here. And 10 years later, I was installed as minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Columbia, Missouri, 340 miles up the road, beginning a vocational life that is more full of joy and sorrow and beauty and wonder than I could have dreamed. The ministry has been, for me, a blossoming, and it started right here, nurtured by people in this room and by some now gone. 36 years ago, my parents walked into this incongruously New England-style sanctuary in the middle of Tulsa with its soothing mint green carpets and its shining clear windows. They arrived seeking help with an imaginative and fearful kindergartner who was asking them very hard questions about death and life and meaning and eternity, and also, who is this Jesus dude that I keep hearing about? And they knew that if they took me somewhere else, I would probably be offered something certain, and maybe also fear and control by the religious status quo. They wanted something freer and more beautiful for me, so they came here. And we were welcomed and held. And I was given so much spiritual space to explore, and eventually extremely high-quality sexuality education. Thank you, Sharon Block. And the enduring gift of music from an unmatched children's choir program. And later, when I vowed to share my life with my spouse, it was on this chancel. And when I came to grieve the death of each of my grandparents, it was these pews and their sliding cushions that caught my tears. The ashes of Clara Walt and Robert L. rest on these grounds, lending phosphorus to blades of grass and roots of trees, and they are held here too, even in death, as many of our loved ones are. And I have nearly finished my ode to you, and will lay off the mush in a moment. But what I want to tell you, All Souls, is that I carry this place in my bones as a deepest companion to my grief and as a rich source of my thriving. And so do countless others who grew up here and now bloom elsewhere. This place and all that it is and all that it means is a generational inheritance we carry with us and that you are nurturing right now for those children downstairs and all who are yet to come. And more than that, what I want to tell you, what I invite you to remember every single day is that you carry each other that way too. It is why you are here, to companion one another in grief and to build collective thriving, especially now when there is so much to grieve and such high stakes for the well-being of each and all. You are here to hold each other and to hold faith with today's children and tomorrow's too, as all of our shared questions about life and death and meaning quiver in the shadow of a great and growing brutality. As mothers in Gaza count their babies' protruding rib bones and still give thanks they are in their arms and not under some rubble. As parents and grandparents and neighbors are kidnapped off the street by masked vigilantes and sent to torturous and overcrowded work camps. As unaccompanied preschoolers, what a sinful phrase, are left to defend themselves in immigration court. As our social safety nets are slashed and then burned for good measure, while the inherent wealth of the earth and its people is plundered and hoarded by a few billionaires. Let's pause there. Is your jaw clenching? Is your pulse rising? There is clarity in our rage, but too much can harden us, and we are made of such soft flesh. Look around. We are small creatures in the face of such widespread brutality, but we are not helpless on this earth. We are fiercely tender, and we are not alone. Which is why you must leave the newspapers at home sometimes and switch off the phone or the 24-hour news and go out among the trees and come to be with this community of thriving and of grief. Because the cruelty of empire consolidates power through our separation and grows from our despair. It attempts through overwhelming horror to pin us down and keep us there, and the only real way to resist it is with our care for one another. So we must metabolize the outrage and reach deeper to our grief. Let it move through you. Here in this sanctuary anointed by the tears of generations, the ache of knowing how beautiful this life can be and seeing how cruel it has all become. The deep and wounding gap between how the world is right now and how we cannot stop ourselves from dreaming it could be. It is good and right to grieve the terrible betrayals of our humanity. And this place was built, brick by brick and heart by heart, to hold that grief with you, to face the tragic in us all together. God, it hurts to witness all this suffering. But God, this place, this community of faith is wide and deep enough to carry the anguish of it with us. This place is wide and deep, and it is a sanctuary for our sorrows, but it is also a crucible for our transformation. Because our grief is deep, but it is also powerful. Powerful because grief is always made of love. Powerful because hearts joined in weeping cannot be unjoined, and hearts intertwined are a formidable force. For 13 years now, I've been involved in faith-based community organizing in Colombia, building power in relationships to effectively fight together for the dignity of our neighbors and ourselves. And early on, I went through an organizing storytelling training that asked us to get in touch with our heartache as the fuel for our work together. The trainers wanted me to tell a story of my pain and how it moved me to join with others to make a change. And I didn't wanna. The trainer pushed me, none too gently. "You will never find your power," she told me, "if you don't touch your heartbreak. They live in the same place," she said. "You will be neither effective nor faithful in your solidarity to others without it." So I have been chipping away at the walls around my heart ever since. I am still chiseling toward that soft and molten core. And in joining my sorrow with the suffering of my neighbors, I have found such ferocious commitment to our shared thriving. I have learned that the pathway to that thriving leads directly through our shared grief. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time now. And to be alive. What a time to be alive. I confess that in this moment, the grief part feels easier to access than the thriving. See, in that organizing work and in volunteering with my local mutual aid collective and bail fund, I have become obsessed with a really beautiful vision of the world. One where all of us can thrive because none of us are disposable. A world that looks a lot like that poem I read this morning, where we share the earth's abundance and connect with its cycles and with each other. And I have seen glimpses, glimmers, firefly-sized sparks of that world in my community, glowing in the places where we love each other well, in really material ways, especially across difference. I have seen it, and I am sure you have too. But I find myself checking those glimpses of beauty against the much larger cruelty playing out so loudly around us. I find myself thinking, how could I focus on thriving now amid such a great and global grief? I wondered this aloud to my spouse the other night. Is giving so much attention to thriving in small ways a betrayal of the great many who are suffering so deeply? How can our little bail fund make a difference in the shadow of an alligator Alcatraz? That, he told me, is exactly what they want you to think. They are hoping that their grand, cruel gestures will crush the millions of wild, loving acts springing up in every corner of this nation and every part of our world. They want our love to feel hopeless and pointless, because otherwise it is too wild and too powerful for them to control. Which is exactly why we cannot let them crush our care. Which is exactly why we must build thriving where we are as the resistance to their cruelty. And which is why we will power it with our grief. Yes, our mutual care might feel like tiny droplets against the walls they are raising, but have you seen what water does to stone? Have you seen their terror in the face of our growing solidarity, their flailing distractions as we turn toward one another in renewed communion? The authoritarians want us to give up on one another and give up on thriving, because that is how they expect they will win. They want us to give up on one another. So thank God we come from a long line of universalists who put their faith in a God that will never give up on anyone, in a fierce and transforming love that will not let us go. And thank God we come from a long line of Unitarians who have always insisted on the potential in human nature, who know that we can still be better than we have yet been, always. And you know what? Thank God we come from Oklahoma, in relationship with long lineages of indigenous knowledge about surviving apocalypse, and long lineages of African American wisdom about building and rebuilding thriving beyond vigilante violence and state repression. We come from Dust Bowl customs of communal care and curiosity amid fundamentalism. We come from broken wagon wheel reliance on neighbor and preaching inclusion amid religious oppression. Truly, who knows better than an Oklahoma Unitarian Universalist how to question and trouble and refuse the authority of somebody else? Who knows better than an Oklahoma UU how to show up as neighbors in our times of need? We have always been here seeking something freer and more beautiful. And yes, the suffering pounds down from on high, but liberation grows up from the roots, even when it is watered by our tears. Thriving blossoms from your heart to my heart when the walls around them have fallen. Which is why we will not remain glued to our seats watching the news from above. Which is why we will take our attention back from an empire that wants us frozen in its thrall, and we will give that attention to our neighbors instead. We will share our suffering with those who can soothe it, and draw close to those whose suffering we can bring relief. We will live liberation together in small ways with a handful of conspirators and watch what grows. Because love is alive and well in the moments between us. It is growing beyond belief, even now. It is at work on Monday in the gardens we tend and on Tuesday in the roofs we repair. It is at work on Wednesday when we weep for all that has been lost, on Thursday when we learn each other's names, and on Friday when we speak our stories like a blessing. Love lives on Saturdays when we rest and feast and hold each other close, and on Sunday, again and again, when we invite more neighbors to dream with us and work with us and belong with us in this place of sorrow and hope and always growing love. Thank you for being All Souls, then and now.
As we reflect on the words of Reverend Molly, let us respond and stand and sing together hymn number 315, This O World. The small ensemble will sing a short introduction, and then we invite you to sing with us.
Please be seated. Thank you, Molly, for bringing a good word for us this morning. And it's great timing for announcements in the offering because it's deeply connected to what we've heard about this morning. Getting involved in your community and your city is a great way to help it grow. And giving what you can helps it thrive. One of our traditions at All Souls is giving away our offering away to an organization in our community that does good works in this world. We do this as a practice of living our values of love and service. This week's offering goes to the YWCA of Tulsa. YWCA is dedicated to eliminating racism, empowering women, promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. Please, let's give generously when the offering plate comes around. I want to highlight a couple of things that are happening in the near future. You're probably working on your social calendar already for this fall. Well, I don't want you to miss, so make sure to put down the Love and Light Gala for November 1st at Southern Hills as we celebrate Reverend Dr. Marlin's 25 years here in Tulsa, here at All Souls. It's going to be fun because you saw that. He was like, don't draw attention. So be there November 1st. Tickets are already on sale. Look for that information on our website or on the Realm app. And next Sunday afternoon, do not miss it. After the second service, we are having another one of our Justice Jams. The schedule's going to be tight. We're going to begin our speaker right away after we introduce them. We're hosting this Justice Jam. There's going to be a catered lunch. And most importantly, who is it? It's going to be a powerful presentation by our own Carlos Marino, Tulsa historian, author, All Souls member, as he explores the complicated history of All Souls and the city of Tulsa. It's one of the titles he's working with is When We Know Better, We Do Better. Do not miss it next Sunday after the second service. For information on these events and upcoming programming, visit the All Souls website. And now we gratefully receive our offering this morning for the YWCA of Tulsa.
So I invite Reverend Dr. Molly Gordon to come forward and lead us in our benediction. I just want to remind you, if you're visiting for the first time, again, welcome, and we'll greet you at the door, and we look forward, there's members of our welcoming team to answer questions in our Sonnen Library just out the door to your left. We look forward to greeting you and answering your questions. You came on a really special Sunday when we had a wonderful gift of having a returning member who grew up in this congregation. I just want to say, we raised some pretty amazing children in this congregation. I mean, come on. Who go on to do incredible things as adults, and we're just so thrilled to have you back with us. Would you lead us in our benediction before we finish?
I think I must have cribbed this benediction from Marlon at some point, but we use it every week in Columbia. Go forth to thrive, go in blessing, and be a blessing to a world that needs our care.
Amen.